Michael Majors here for SG Tour Spotlight. Been a little while since I've done one of these, but here today to take Ryan Overturf's Grixis Delver, which he recently top 8'd an Open with, to a Modern League, so we'll see how that goes. Despite the fact that Ryan and I have differing opinions on how you should construct your Grixis deck in Modern, this should be a lot of fun. Not the biggest fan of this card, Delver of Secrets, to be completely honest, but this hand is decent because we have 2 copies. Pretty likely we're just going to fetch up Steam Vents on turn 1 and play a Delver. Decent chance we might brick on our second land drop, but if we do, then we're pretty likely to actually flip it, so could be worse, I suppose. There's certainly more of an aggressive slant to his deck than things that I'm used to playing with in the past. While your overall card quality is a little lower, it does give you a chance to kind of just steal games from bad matchups just by flipping into the insectile aberration and getting aggressive. There we go. Gonna go to 17 to fetch a Steam Vents, play a Delver. See what we're up against. Affinity with a basic island on turn 1. Okay. I would like to reveal this Kolaghan's Command. Okay. Probably can't afford to let the Steel Overseer live, so we're going to miss our land drop and Lightning Bolt it. Which kind of stinks, but it's probably going to buy us some time, and if we can just work towards actually getting our Terminates and eventually this Kolaghan Command online, then I think we'll be alright. Killing me, man. Just attacking with his Delver. Maybe we should have mulliganed this hand, but like, Ryan's deck only has 20 lands, so probably a fair amount of draws are just going to be 1-landers with like a cheap threat and maybe a velocity spell. He plays 4 Thought Scour and 4 Serum Visions, so trying to cheat on lands a bit. So it's kind of hard to like take a stance of mulliganing every 1-lander that you draw. So that's why I was inclined to keep this hand. It had a velocity spell, 2 threats, and a removal spell we could all cast for 1 mana. So get that out of there. Ravager. And another Overseer. Okay, that's trouble. Definitely do need to draw land. Alright, so we hit a swamp, so that'll play, but we are going to take another turn before we actually get to use it. So I'm going to leave back my Aberration this turn. If it just trades with Ornithopter, I'm pretty happy with that. Edge of Champion. Edge of Champion is definitely an issue. Played all 10 cards on turn 3, it's not bad. Including 3 2-drops and a 3-drop. So I think even if our draw had come together, this would have been a tough draw to beat, but So what happens if we block? It basically encourages our opponent to move all in some capacity, which I think if we can just get material off the board, then that's good for us. So I think I'm fine. Just making our opponent sacrifice some artifacts. So if we terminate Steel Overseer, then Ravager becomes a 5/5 and we take 11 damage on the following turn. Alternatively, if we go ahead and bust up the Ravager, then our opponent probably just moves on his Edge Champion, which is going to be pretty difficult to beat. So we probably don't actually want to encourage him to sacrifice his Ravager, as bad as that sounds. I'm not sure there's a way out. So if we terminate Overseer, Ravager becomes 5/5. Then we draw a land. Then we call against command 2 things, and then maybe terminate Etched Champion, but it all seems like quite the stretch. So we're like facing 2-turn lethal here. Go to 6, and then yeah, no matter what, if our opponent just moves on any of his creatures, then we're dead. And they're not obligated to actually make a move first because we're just facing lethal naturally. So I guess if we draw like land and can block Ravager, maybe we can do something, but it seems unlikely. All right. The issue here still is even if we just block Ravager. Oh, okay, well, Galvanic Blast is going to do it. Alright, for sideboarding, definitely interested in cheap spot removal. Engineering Explosives is definitely nice too. On the play, I am interested in Spell Pierce. I think. At least one copy, maybe not both. Remand is pretty bad. Definitely don't want all these mana leaks. Ryan does have 4 copies of Spell Snare, which I did not realize at first, so maybe Spell Pierce is not something that I want. Pretty happy just boarding down some Delvers. I don't think this matchup's necessarily about getting a quick clock on our opponent, but rather just like mitigating what they're capable of doing and countering their key spells, so maybe we'll board in a Mana Leak and a Spell Pierce. Could even see a world where I wanted like Ancestral Visions, but they're very slow. I'll try this configuration for game 2. Alright, so another one-lander. Again, we have 3 cards that can interact. So it's tough. I do want to keep. Not having a card draw spell is a problem. Snapcaster we're way off, and Engineering Explosives is going to be very slow. So maybe we're just supposed to mulligan this. Okay. This hand is not very exciting, but it's stable, and we're definitely keeping the Lightning Bolt. So I'm not going to crack a fetch land on turn 1 because we want to draw that Lightning Bolt. Which means we probably want to fetch Steam Vents or Basic Mountain. So Bloodstained Mire is probably the land we want to play first. Can just play Tasker on turn 2 with this draw, which, depending on what our opponent does on the first turn, might be a valid option. Two fetch lands and a Thought Scour is 5 cards in our graveyard, so. That's not good. Another really explosive draw from our opponent. Yeah. Yep. Alright, so we're definitely drawing that Lightning Bolt. Had the option of just burning it now to... I don't think our opponent can possibly move 4 permanents onto... Or excuse me, sacrifice 3 permanents to make his Ravager a 4/4. So that'll basically just shred his entire board. So maybe bolting now is actually reasonable. Then again, I could just get Tasker on the battlefield and kind of just force our opponent to make a move. I also just have no issue with just playing Thought Scour first and just seeing if we hit anything that's relevant for our Snapcaster Mage. So we'll get a Steam Vents, Thought Scour ourselves. Hit a Lightning Bolt and a land, and drew another land. Awkwardly, we actually drew our Swamp, which means we can't crack our Polluted Delta for a Swamp and cast Tasker without taking 3 more damage. So that kind of stinks. Alright, we're just going to go to 14. We only just flipped another Lightning Bolt, and I kind of just want to get on the battlefield. So this certainly could end poorly, but hopefully it doesn't. Alright, get a Blood Crypt, pay 2 life, cast Tasker. Hopefully our opponent doesn't just jam like a Plating or Etched Champion. Both those cards are pretty scary from this position. Okay, Vault Scourge I can handle. Alright, it's just getting aggressive with the Nexus. No big deal. Another land, not what we wanted to see. So it's weird. So like attacking with Tassiger doesn't accomplish too much. We're dealing 3 damage essentially because of Vault Scourge, and our opponent gets an additional point of damage. And we probably need to kill all of our opponent's threats, or at least buy enough time to get like Lightning Bolt plus a Tasker activation plus like Snapcaster shenanigans going. So it looks pretty bad, but I'm not actually going to trade a point of damage here. Excuse me, trade a point for a 3. Cranial Plating is not great. Okay. So, if we just Lightning Bolt the Ornithopter, then our opponent could move all in on Ravager and essentially break even on damage, just deals 8 damage this turn. It's also very risky considering the amount of cards we have in our hand. I think we can't just like take a hit for 1 million damage this turn and just try to get Snapcaster Bolt online. So I am going to go ahead and Bolt. I think it's unlikely our opponent can just jam in on the Ornithopter. Now if they do, then it's quite bad for us, but okay. Alright, so only take a point in combat that turn, so that's good. Go ahead and search up a Watery Grave. Hopefully we draw something nice this turn, but definitely under the gun here. Mana Leak. Not the best time to draw Mana Leak. Again, we're going to pass since it kind of brick walls our opponent's Archon Ravager and force them to deal us less damage or make a move. Okay, Master of Ethereum. Well, I think we're pretty much obligated to Mana Leak that. Which is unfortunate. We're definitely going to take a big hit now. Take 7 damage, go to 4. Now we probably have to draw something pretty nice to get out of this. Alright, that doesn't count. So the issue here, I don't think there's any way out. So we're going to initiate with like Snapcaster, Bolt, the Ornithopter, and then that's not even assuming that our opponent just like animates one of the Nexi. I think we're basically dead in the water, no matter what our opponent actually, what path they choose to take. Doesn't really matter. Snapcaster Mage. Our opponent could even just transfer Cranial Plating to Vault Scourge. It's another way they could do it. Not looking good. Certainly possible we should have mulliganed that hand in game 1, but played turn 2 Tasker this game. Just kind of got destroyed straight up. Okay, our opponent transferred onto the Ornithopter. We're dead.